Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations right here on the Conscious Awakening Network. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank you for being here. So, whether you're watching us live on one of our many platforms or if you're listening to us on one of our podcast locations, thank you, thank you, thank you. I sincerely appreciate it. Now, tonight's episode is well, I'm going to tell you in a second, but let me introduce to you first Dr. Ryan Brown. Now, Dr. Ryan is a founder of the Fit Minds United, a transformational community dedicated to activating human potential through love, conscious living, and spiritual mastery. As a professor of metaphysics with a PhD in metaphysics science, he blends science and spirit to create empowering spaces for personal growth, self realization, and inner awakening. Through his work as a spiritual mind mentor, Dr. Brown will guide individuals and groups to realign with their true nature, helping them to recreate their lives from the inside out. Now, his passion is to nurture transformation, elevate consciousness, and inspire others to fully embody their divine essence. In this presentation, he's going to dive into what he calls the freedom loop. It's a transformational process that he created to help people reshape their lives by shifting their perspectives. Now, rooted in metaphysics, the freedom loop will show us how our perceptions will create how our perceptives create our perception. So, whether it forms your belief, your actions, it's going to help create your experience and ultimately shape your reality, mirroring back to you your own perspectives in a continuous cycle. Now, he says that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So I want to go ahead without any further ado. I want to bring him up, introduce him to you. And if you would like, you can also find his work at www.fitmindsunited.com. So, Dr. Ryan, it is a pleasure to have you here with us tonight.
Hey, great to be here. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing great. Great. I am so glad that we got it together for this evening. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to have you here. So, I'd like to start out ask you like I ask everybody, if you can give me a little bit of information about how you got to where you are today and, what some of your driving forces were.
Well, that's a loaded question. We're all here on planet Earth having an experience. And I've always wondered since I was a young kid, as most people that get into this probably often wonder, is, who am I? What am I? Where am I? Why am I here? And now that I'm here, what am I supposed to do with it? And I had those questions really young. I think some people kind of come across those questions maybe later on in life. But I was really young, and I was put in a Catholic preschool, and then a Catholic kindergarten, and then Catholic grade school, and they're telling me a lot of the answers to these questions. However, it wasn't really aligning with my little kid brain. And I started to rebel and started to kind of, get angry and frustrated because a lot of the questions that I had, the answers that were coming to me, I wasn't resonating with. And that caused a lot of frustration. Now, keep in mind, I'm in first grade, second grade, third grade, and you don't have the language and the intelligence and the emotional capability to really respond in the proper ways. So I found myself getting into a lot of ornery mischief and fights and this and that. And so, they put me on the wrestling team and got me into sports and I tend to be able to use athletics as a way to really get out that energy. And it helped me for a little while. It was a distraction, if you will. When you're playing sports, you're not thinking about all these questions and then as I got a little older, those questions started to get louder and I started to really be what I guess we would call a truth seeker, trying to really uncover and find the truth of who and what and where and why we are. So I started in my undergrad with, kind of getting into a lot of psychology and trying to learn about the mind because being an athlete, I already learned about the body and how the kinesiology of the body moves, But I always wondered what makes the body move. Well, of course, it's the mind. So I started studying the mind. But then I started wondering, well, what makes the mind work? And you start learning about consciousness. And then I asked the smartest people I knew, what is consciousness? And nobody could tell me. I mean, everybody has ideas and thoughts, but you could ask the smartest among us, what is consciousness? And we really don't know. So of course, when someone tells me they don't know, that makes me really want to find out. And it's kind of like Dennis the Menace. Don't push that red button. Why? If you don't get the proper answer, you're gonna have to push it to find out. And so I've just been on a lifelong journey of this self-discovery and remembrance of who I am. And that's led me to a PhD in metaphysics. And I like to mention metaphysics. I went to the University of Metaphysical Sciences.
Ah, me too.
Oh, there you go. So I always thought metaphysics was a science-based thing. And it is in a sense. However, it's really a branch of philosophy. And philosophy is one of those things where you're trying to really understand the answers to those big questions we were just talking about. Um, so that's where I'm at. I've come a long way and done a lot of introspection and read a lot of books and met a lot of people and had a lot of neat cosmic conversations of my own and yeah, and that's kind of led me all to this place.
Awesome. So, how long have I'm assuming you have your own business
Mhm.
because it sounds like you're offering services to people. How long have you had that? And when you first started, I have to ask, are you seeing, like, from the time that you started until the time, well, say today, are you seeing that people's perspectives are staying the same? Are they changing? Are they coming in with different ideas? What's been your experience?
So great question because I started and founded Fit Minds United in 2009. So it's been a while. I've been on this journey of teaching, metaphysics and things like the law of attraction. Back in 2009 when I was really just getting started with this business, I was introduced to things like The Secret, which a lot of people in the space have understood, things like the law of attraction and all these neat things. But I think that so many people were calling it blasphemy and woo-woo and pseudoscience, and it really confused me because, um, you know, living on this planet and understanding what I understood, I realized that there's energy, and energy has a vibration, and vibration is a resonance. And when you give off a certain frequency or certain vibration, a matching like frequency comes back, right? So that's now, metaphysics 101, if you will. So everyone kind of understands that. But rewind all the way back to pre-2012, the law of attraction was still one of these things that was really new age and, like I said, very, very, woo-woo and all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget, I was on a stage speaking to a congregation of people at this something called the Gift of Light that we have a couple times a year throughout different spaces. And I'm on the stage and I'm talking about the law of attraction. And I remember talking about it as if, it's 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 so powerful, the most powerful universal law out there. And I remember wanting to get this point across to people, but a guy named Chief Golden Light Eagle, he was there in the conference, and he said to me, he said, "Son," he said, "you're 12 years too early." And I said, 12 years too early? What, it's hard to wrap your mind around 12 years too early. And so he was basically saying things, he was started talking about cycles and how we have one more cycle and that would put us at 2024 and things would really start, kicking off. And I said, well, that's 12 years from now. Like, yeah, what am I supposed to do until then? Right? It's kind of like when a new car comes out and you're like, oh, maybe this is a neat car. And it's like comes out in 5 years from now. And it's hard as humans to wrap your mind around something that's so far away. And so here I am in 2012 talking about the law of attraction, not realizing that it's really the law of vibration and how I understood how it works, but we fast forward to answer your question, and now we're in this world of quantum physics and epigenetics and understanding a lot more than what we've ever understood. And now back, 12 years ago when everybody was saying this was pseudoscience, those same people won't stop asking me questions and wanting to learn about all of this. So I think what's happened is this new cycle's brought us to a place of expanded awareness and expanded understanding and expanded consciousness, which is allowing more people to wrap their minds around who and what we really are and how we really operate. So, and it helps because in 2022, these three physicists just won a Nobel Peace Prize for proving that non-local realism exists. So with all this newfound science, it's not disproving all of these old, ancient teachings. It's actually validating it, right? So instead of saying, "Oh, that pseudoscience," is going, "Wow, there's something there." And so that's what's making it so much more exciting now to have these sort of cosmic conversations because the people that used to make fun of this stuff are now, engulfed in it and going, "Tell me more. I need to learn this stuff," as we, transition into this new fifth dimension or realm.
Right, beautiful. Now, you have come up with a process that you call the freedom loop. Can you share with us about that?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, things come in cycles and things come in loops. I mean, you look at our DNA, everything's a spiral, everything's swirling, and the freedom loop, and you've kind of introduced it well in the sense that, we have this thing called a perspective. And the perspective is very important because, I look at life as this great I am, right? We have a choice in the matter. And people often get confused when it comes to the idea of free will. Well, what is free will? Well, what is determination? So we got determinism, where you can be determined to do something, and then you have this free will, and people say free will doesn't exist, and there's just a lot of stuff there. But to keep it really simple, you have a choice in the matter, and it all starts with your intention. Your intention is only yours to have. In other words, I can't give you an intention. You have to give yourself the intention. And that intention is I am, and you fill in the blank. So I can't tell you what you are. Only you can do that. And what comes after I am, as we know, is a very, very, very powerful, you know, force. Because if you say I am fear, or if you say I am love, those are two very different powerful energies. And so they can set this wheel into motion. So think of it this way. Your perspective is your personal perspective of reality. So if I asked you, do you like chocolate ice cream or do you like vanilla ice cream? And you might say, well, let me ask you, what do you like? What do you prefer, vanilla or chocolate, if you had to choose?
Vanilla.
Okay, so you choose vanilla. Who am I to tell you that you're wrong? Who am I to tell you that, oh, vanilla's terrible, you should prefer chocolate? But the idea is when you prefer something, when you make a choice to the universe and you decide and declare, this is who I am, this is what I desire, that sets in motion something called focus. We have something called a reticular activating system in our brain that causes us to focus all of our attention into a certain direction. So if you say, let's use another example. Um, we'll play a game. Let's say you're gonna drive. I wish I knew where you live. Where do you live? Where part of the world are you?
I'm in Colorado.
Okay, Colorado. So let's just say you go in Colorado, you get in your car and you're going to drive around, 20 minutes and back. And I say, I want you to look for every red Jeep Wrangler that you can find in the next 20 minutes. And when you get back, I want you to text me how many red Jeep Wranglers you saw. So I gave you a perspective. And so I'm going to give you $1,000 for every red Jeep Wrangler that you find on your little 20-minute trip. So you're going to be hyper focused on looking for red Jeep Wranglers because you're like, wow, $1,000. That's a lot of money. So let's just say I give you this perspective and you go out and you drive around and you get back. How many red Jeep Wranglers did you find?
27,000.
Yeah, I knew that. Would you stopped at a car dealership, drove around back there?
Oh no, they were just I just called them to me, you know.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You saw all these red Jeep Wranglers. And I don't know math very well, so let's just see, 27,000. That's a lot of money.
A lot of
Divide by
money.
two, carry the one. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, so you now have a perception that you saw, let's just say you saw 10 red Jeep Wranglers,
Right.
right? So you saw 10 red Jeep Wranglers. So you have a perception that. Now, as you're driving around and you get back and you tell me you saw all these red Jeep Wranglers, and I go, well, how many white BMWs did you see? You know, well, that's not fair. I didn't see any, right? Because you were completely focused for looking for red Jeep Wranglers because there was a lot at stake in that. So you had a lot of attention, a lot of emotion. Your emotion is your energy in motion. And we know that where your attention goes, your energy flows. So if I say look for red Jeep Wranglers, I'm going to give you $1,000 for every red Jeep Wrangler you see. You're hyper focused on looking for that. That's so much so that you get this tunnel vision almost, and you don't see everything else. And so what happens is the perspective creates the perception, and the perception creates a belief because you have a belief system because you saw it with your own two eyes. You experienced 10 red Jeep Wranglers or however many you saw. So you now have a belief system, which is your faith. And your faith is very real to you because when you believe something, the mind does something really crazy where it brings it to you. Like you just said, it manifests things. And so nothing has any meaning in life except for the meaning that you give it. And so if you're super excited about this opportunity to find red Jeep Wrangler so you can get $1,000, and then you see 10 or 15 or 20 or however many red Jeep Wranglers, and you come back and you tell me, hey, Ryan, I saw, you know, 10 red Jeep Wranglers. You owe me a lot of money. And what if I challenged you on that? What if I said, no, you didn't? You're totally making that up. You're lying. You only saw like two. You have a belief system that comes from something that you saw with your own two eyes. You experienced this. So your beliefs create now behaviors and actions. And your behaviors and actions are rooted from your belief. And your beliefs rooted from your perception, all coming from a perspective that I gave to you. Now, you can always give yourself your own philosophy, your own perspective, right? Your own intention. But in this scenario, I gave you the intention. Your reticular activating system kicks in and says, nothing's important except for red Jeep Wranglers, hyper focus on it. You see X amount of red Jeep Wranglers. Now you have a belief system, and now your behaviors and actions support that belief system. Well, your behaviors and actions create the energy that's in motion, and now you have an experience. So your experience is in direct proportion to your behaviors and your actions, which is in direct proportion to your beliefs, which is in direct proportion from what you saw. Well, what does your experience create? Your experience creates your reality, right? That's what you have. So your behaviors are what you're being, and your experience is what you're doing. Your reality is what you have. And we live in this paradigm where we are taught that if I have it, then I can do it, then I can be it. So that's the have, do, be paradigm. And what's really fascinating about this is we were listening to some music before we jumped onto this live, and I remember the person playing the music, I think it was Susie. She said, I'm working on happiness. We're all working on happiness. Happiness is so important, right? We live in a country where there's the pursuit of happiness. Well, happiness is so important and so fundamental to everybody, and it seems to be the most missing thing from most people. And the best gift that you could ever give to another person is the gift that you give yourself, which is being happy. If I'm happy, you're happy. Like I always tell people, when you're happy, I'm happy. That's we all want happiness. But we live in a society that taught us that if I have a lot of money, if I have the right relationship, if I have the big house or the nice car or the designer jeans or the fancy watch, whatever it is, if I have, then I'll be doing this thing that'll allow me to be happy. If I go on vacation, then I'll be doing this thing called hanging out by the beach in the water and drinking a Mai Tai. Then I'll be happy. Do you see how many things have to come before somebody's happy? As opposed to the way it should be, which is instead of have, do, be, it's be, do, have. You have to choose to be happy first. And out of that place of being, now everything you're doing comes from that place. How can you not have that which you've chosen to be? Does that make sense? Normally I do this with a blackboard, so or a dry erase board, so you're able to follow my work. But the idea is with the loop, it starts with perspective, and perspective is your personality. So let that sink in real quick. This is so important. We all have a personality. You meet somebody, you go, that person has a lovely personality. That person has a really crappy personality. What gives here? Well, the personality is the personal perspective of reality. Okay? The personality is the personal perspective of reality. And so the only way to change your reality is to change your personal perspective of reality, which is to literally change your personality. So that's why the I am is so important because think about it. If you're trying to teleport your consciousness from one state of being to another state of being. In fact, my sweatshirt here, you probably can't see it too well on the screen, but it says freedom is a state of mind. And what I believe is that freedom is a state of happiness. And that state of happiness stems from a state of mind. But we don't realize, well, we do now because science is helping us out. But did you know that we have two minds in the body? We always thought that we had one. That's what I was taught. We have a mind, but we now know that there's a separate set of neuro transmitters in the heart. There's a whole neural network in the heart and in the mind. And so the heart is actually 4,000 times more powerful than the one up here in the brain. And so you have these two minds, one in the heart, one up here in the brain. And the idea is to synchronize these, right? To connect these. And we know that we can't think greater than we feel. So we have to work on how we feel first, which comes from what we look for, right? So if I'm watching scary movies, how's that make me feel? If I'm listening to negative music, if I'm having negative conversations, if I'm blaming, complaining, making excuses, all of these things lower my vibration. And so you have to realize and understand that only you can decide how you perceive the world around you. In other words, nothing has any meaning. I already said this, but I'm going to say it again because it's so important. Nothing has any meaning. Everything around you is neutral. Vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, it's all neutral. The only thing that has any meaning is the meaning that you give it. And so you have to be very careful with how you give meaning to things. Um, does that make sense? I'm going a lot of
Absolutely.
going fast here. Um, But yeah, the state of mind is your moment by moment, right? We know that now is the only thing that exists. So we have the future, we have the past, but those are perceptions that we hold in our heart and our mind. They're experiences. The only thing that really exists is right now in this moment, and only you can decide your energy in this moment. Let me let me put it this way. This is a really fun way to look at it. Have you ever broken down the word human being? Like, in other words, a lot of people don't realize that a hue, H-U-E, so like I'm gonna draw this out here, H-U-E. So can you see that there? Hue. All right. What is hue? It's a quality of color. And a quality of color, like I actually have two blue shirts on here. I have a blue sweatshirt and then a blue t-shirt. And I can say they're both blue. But if you're looking at this and you're not colorblind, you can tell that one is a different hue of blue than this one. Remember, hue stands for quality of color. Okay. And it's a fractal of light. So light is basically all color is made up of the light spectrum, right? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And there's different qualities of color. If you're down here at the bottom, it's red. If you go all the way up to the top, it's that really violet color, right? And so the frequency of the energy is so different based on where you're at, what you're vibrating at. So your hue, your quality of your light is based on hue. I'm going to write down man. So what do you think man stands for? The man. Hue is your quality of color. Man is manifestation, right? And being is what your thoughts, your feelings, and like how you think, act, and feel in this moment right now. So how you think, how you act, and how you feel in this moment right now, which leads to the next moment, which leads to the next moment, so each moment, how you think, how you act, and how you feel broadcasts information into the quantum field, and it dictates your color. It's kind of like if you remember back in the day having a mood ring, those little funny like kind of I think they were more novelty type things, right? But the mood ring is supposed to be like if you're in a really bad mood, it's going to be a certain color. If you're in a good mood, it's in a different color. And if you've ever been to cool metaphysical expos, and there's Kirlian photography and there's different types of um, digital photography that can capture the color of your energy. And you get this Polaroid picture that comes out and you got all these colors. Well, who do you think's in charge of that color? Who's in charge of your hue? Who's in charge of your light? Well, it's either you or you're allowing someone else to take control of your fractal of light. And so the freedom loop and the idea of realizing that there's two parts of us. There's the non-physical part of us and the physical part of us, right? That's what we mean by multidimensional. There's the non-physical energetic version of you that resides in the conscious 5D. And then there's the physical material version of you that is in this meat suit. And we're here for a short period of time observing this reality from what? Our perspective. We have five senses. We hear, taste, touch, smell, and see things, and it's all done through perception, energy perception. In fact, when I hear something, if you're talking or music or anything, I'm hearing wave frequencies that go into my ear. And there's these little bones that translate this information into information. And so that data comes in, but that's how we perceive everything. But we learn that in school, our five senses, but they don't teach you about the sixth sense, right? The most important sixth sense, which is your ability to feel. And I do believe that feelings are the language of your soul, and how you feel, again, broadcasts information into the quantum field. So at any given moment, you are deciding and you are declaring to the universe, this is who I am. The problem is most people aren't aware of that. They're not conscious of that. They're operating from a default mechanism or a program that was given to them from wherever they grew up, their family, their friends, their church, their school, their society. And so that would be what we call epigenetics, where people are operating from a program that was passed down to them as opposed to a program that they chose to install into their own mind and heart. So the freedom loop in this framework is intended to be able to give the person, the human, the power to wire and rewire and remap their own mind and their own heart.
Awesome. So now, when people get started with you and they say, okay, I want to learn more about the freedom loop, how do you start them out in first identifying what their perceptions are and then how they are actually manifesting those in their life?
So the easiest way to figure out what your starting point is and where you're at is to look to see how you feel. So if I'm working with, you know, person A, I go, how do you feel right now? What's the main, like, are you happy? Well, if someone's happy, they're not reaching out to me typically. If someone's super happy, like my life is just great. It couldn't get any better. I'm the happiest now in this moment than I've ever been ever. Well, keep doing what you're doing, right? You're happy. But if you ask the other mass majority of humans on this planet if they're happy, they will tell you emphatically, I'm not happy. In fact, I'm insecure. I'm shameful. I'm humiliated. I'm fearful. Whatever it is that they're feeling. And that's unfortunate because what people do that are not feeling that good is they look for things to make them feel better. Notice what I said. They look for things to make them feel better. And that's where we live in this instant gratification world where we have all of these things all around us that we try to fill our cup up with to hope that it makes us feel better. And that's just never going to work, right? You have to, life doesn't care what you're doing. The universe doesn't care about what you're doing. It cares about what you're being. The law of attraction is literally just uh, um, the law of attraction is literally just a way like people think that manifestation is going and getting something that they want that they do not have. That's not how it works. Manifestation is putting yourself in the right frequency that's a match to all the things that you want to experience. So, for instance, if you want to experience happiness, you have to be in the vibration of happiness. So, you have to literally become happy, and then everything that's matched to happy comes crashing in on you, right? In Matthew 6:33, it says, seek first the kingdom of God, right? Go within, seek first the kingdom of God, and all else that you desire will be added unto you, right? It says added unto you. So if I'm happy, then happiness will be added unto me. And that's Jesus, I believe Yeshua was like the master metaphysicist. And yeah, I love learning from master metaphysics teachers like that. And I think it's pretty clear that how you think, how you feel, and how you act creates ripple effects in this physical world that we're living in. And, that's the most important thing that I can give to people. So to answer your question, what's the first thing I do is I ask, how do you feel? And then we break down and try to figure out, why do you feel that way? What's causing you to
Mhm.
feel so negative or so scared or so like you're just going to lose it all or so insecure or why are you so mad? Why are you so angry? What's going on here? Because we know that being authentic is one of the highest frequencies that we can achieve. But what is authenticity? Authenticity is when you're being you. Dr. Seuss said, you being you is all you need to do. Well, what the heck does that even mean? Right? It means getting out of your way and being that which you desire. And that's my number one thing, is to try to get people to drop their ego, get rid of the physical world that they think that they are. You have a body, but you are not your body. And when you can wrap your mind around that, that you are actually energy first, physical second, you know, because I think Einstein said the he said energy is the sole governing agency over the particle. Okay, so that means energy first, particle second. And so we have to realize and understand that we are multidimensional, but we're actually light first, and we're light moving at such a rate that we are in a dense form of physical for a short period of time while we're experiencing ourself as ourself. And I just think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, so once someone identifies the things that's going on in their life, do you have a process that you take them through so that they can begin to implement or to shift or to change?
Yeah, I think we can reverse the freedom loop. I wish I had it in front of me so you could kind of see this here. Um, but this whole freedom loop, and it's actually on my website, so you can, anyone that's watching this can go to fitmindsunited.com and pull it up, and you can look at this wheel that I created. But you can actually reverse engineer it. So I was talking about when we start is at personality, right? We start at your perspective. What do you believe? What do you feel? What are you thinking right now in this moment? And is it serving your highest good? And we just try to figure out, like, for instance, if I said, who are you? Uh, if I ask that to 10 people, I'll get 10 different answers. And so the idea is getting people to be the conscious observer of their own reality, right? To be the active participant in the evolution of their own soul. Again, most people are reacting to life, they're not responding to life. And so the process that I take people through is we have to figure out how you feel and what got you to this point to make you feel the way that you feel, and really understand that. Because the ego and the physical, people, a better way to say it is we don't see the world around us as it actually is. We see the world around us as we are. So if I have been shamed my whole life growing up, if I had a mom and a dad or whoever raised me shamed me, how do you think shame makes someone feel? It makes you feel humiliated. That's what shame does. Shame is an energy that is used on somebody. I can shame you, shame on you, and it makes you feel humiliated. And the thing about shame is when you feel humiliated, you look at life as life is miserable. So you have a life view that life is miserable because you feel humiliated, all because somebody shamed you. And if you believe in God, or if you ask that person who is shamed and who feels miserable, who's been humiliated, and you say, what do you think about God? Oh, God is despising. God is, negative and mean. Well, why don't you ask somebody who has been loved their whole life, who instead of shamed, they were loved? Well, love makes you feel respected. If I love you, you then feel respected. And you look at life, your life view is life is great. Life is beautiful. Life is kind. Life is gentle. And so I go, well, what do you think about God? Oh, God is good. God is great. God is loving. Well, we have two people living on the same planet in the same economy and the same president, the same whatever, and one person says life is miserable and the other person says life is good. All because one person is experiencing a loving vibration and the other person is experiencing a shaming vibration. So when I see somebody acting out of anything that's not love, it makes me want to love them even more because those who need love the most are sometimes the ones that are hardest to love. And that's a quote, I think. I don't know who said it, but those who are hardest to love need love the most. And so it's easy to be love around loving people. I can go in a room where everyone's loving and it's like, oh, this is a great place to be. We'll go into a room where everyone's not loving. That's where you need to really shine your light. And so people are like, I don't know how to handle this person because they're not a very loving person. I'm like, well, you're not going to change them. You're not going to go convince them to be more loving. The only way you're going to do that is by being love yourself. Mother Teresa said you can't change the world, but you can be the change that you wish to see in the world. And so that's what I seek to have people do is to say, how do you feel right now? Let's look at why do you feel this way? Let's understand how it all works and how we can get you to a better feeling place. And that's where the freedom loop comes in because you have to change the way you look at things. Again, we see the world not as it is, we see the world as we are. So again, in that quote, by the way, you said earlier at starting the show, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's actually, I can't take credit for that. It's actually comes from Dr. Wayne Dyer. If you're familiar with Dr. Wayne Dyer, he's amazing. Rest in peace. He was like one of my favorite teachers of all time. And that's the whole idea is if I change my personality, which is my personal perspective of reality, I'm changing the core light of who I am. I'm changing the quality of me. And we know that fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. I'm going to say that again. Fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real. Fear isn't real. It's make-believe in our mind. We've all seen The Wizard of Oz, and they are going to bring their sacrifice to the great wizard so that they can get these things that they feel that they need, right? Wisdom, or what was it? Like the scarecrow, or no, who was it? The lion was so scared. He was shaking and he like jumped out a window and this big Oz fire was like, doing all of this stuff and then Toto just runs and pulls the curtain back. And what happens? The fear disappeared because the fear wasn't real. It was all just make believe in the mind. And we use fear to keep people here. The fear keeps you here. And so when the veil was removed, in other words, when you can see the truth, the fear disappears. And in that moment, they all went from scared to, oh, what? What is this? And then they kind of got angry and then you know, and so the devil, I feel, represents a veil, de-veil. When you remove the devil, when you de-veil, you can see the truth and the truth shall set you free. It changes how you understand the world around you. So, fear is a very powerful tool that's used by, well, as we turn on the news for 5 seconds and you'll see fear, 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 division, division, division. It's all fake narratives. It's all propaganda. None of it's real. It's all make believe to keep you in a place of primal state, of reaction. Do you know, I'm sure everyone's heard monkey see, monkey do, right? You know what separates a monkey from a human? A monkey operates on two principles. They react and they imitate. Look at the most unconscious humans out there. They're reactionary and they're imitating everyone. It's called monkey mind. They want to keep you in monkey mind. And when I say they, whoever the powers that be that run the planet that want to profit off your soul and harvest you and take, manipulate your energy, if I can keep you below a 250 hertz in that primal state, where you are interested in winning and pride and all the things that are of ego, right? When you're in that state, you're reacting, and you're imitating. In fact, have you guys, I don't know if you've heard the E plus R equals O. Are you familiar with that equation? E plus R equals O. Well, it's really powerful for me, and I use it with a lot of the people I work with. E is the event that happens, plus your response to that event equals the outcome. Okay? The event happens, I get rear-ended at a stoplight. I look in my rearview mirror and I see this 16, 17-year-old girl with her phone in her hand with big eyes like she saw the, ghost. And I'm realizing that she was texting and driving, not paying attention. She ran into the back of me. That's the event. Now, I have a choice on how I respond in this moment. Do I respond with love or do I respond with fear? That's bottom line. I can call it whatever I want, but I have a choice. Most people react. Oh, for crying out loud, they jump out their car and then they react. But this is a really neat space to be in. Something happens. How do I respond? Because however I respond is going to be in direct proportion to the outcome that I experience. And so I get out and I go over to the car, and I ask myself, what would love say? What would love do? What would love think in this moment? How would love act? Because my intention, from my perspective, my personality is love. I am love. So my reticular activating system kicks in and it looks for in my day places and ways that I can be love and be uh, and act as love and experience love. Like I'm always looking for ways to love. And at first it's weird if you're not in that space, but the more you do it, right, the more it becomes a habit and you start living in the space. So I get out of the car and I walk back to her car and I say, "How's everything going? Are you okay? It's okay, not a big deal. Let's get you off the road. And I have insurance. It's not a big deal." And like I just start to do all these things that are of loving nature. And there could be a learning experience in this. And, she calls her dad, and dad comes to the scene. He's all worried and he's all appreciative that I was able to be so nice and kind and help out and this and that. And now I do business deal with him, or who knows what it could lead to, versus if I responded in fear or anger or whatever. So I think it's just so important that we realize that we have a choice in the matter of how we look at life, because how we look at life creates our focus, it creates our personality, and that personality is our personal perspective of reality. Oh,
Hmm.
I don't know if I can hear you. There you are.
Yes, sorry, I was still on mute. Yeah, that's really beautiful because I know on the consciousness scale, as we continue to progress, that's the state that we want to achieve. That's the state that we want to be in because then we really start transforming that world around us because our vibration is leading into that consciousness, the collective consciousness, and helping to raise it for those around us, just like, being hit in the back with the vehicle, getting out, operating in love, helping the girl to get out of fear. You immediately raise her consciousness.
And this is so important that you just said that. So speaking of monkeys and monkey mind and consciousness, are you familiar with the six monkey effect? The hundredth monkey effect. Sorry, I don't know, six monkey, hundredth monkey effect. But yeah, I mean that's a perfect example. And science says that when 3.5% to 5% of the consciousness meets a certain, elevated state, then it just starts popping off like light bright or like dominoes. And so the hundredth monkey effect is, they had all of these monkeys on one side of the island or the continent, and these anthropologists were monitoring them. They taught them how to wash the potatoes. One monkey started doing it, and they all started, monkey see, monkey do. And then next thing you know, when enough of the collective consciousness understood that washing how to wash this potato on the other side of the continent, monkeys that were never shown how to do this were like, aha, what is that? Great idea. Let's wash the potato. And they weren't shown how to do that. It was in the field. And so we're at a place in life right now, 2025, where the mass collective consciousness is higher and more loving and more unity and more understanding and more aware than it's ever been. We still have a long way to go, but it's happening quick. We're at that place where it's going to, once we get to that 3.5% to like 5%, it just takes over. So as we can see, if you're paying attention, I hope you're not paying attention to the news, but if it's hard to hide from what's going on in the Middle East and in Russia and all these things, all of that stuff could be something we focus on. And how's that going to make us feel? Right? None of all that stuff it is happening. I don't want people to think it's like not happening, but focusing on it, again, Dr. Wayne Dyer said you feeling sick for sick people isn't going to make them healthy. You feeling poor for poor people isn't going to make them rich. How you feel isn't going to change anybody else. So you have to worry about your own self and get your vibration up as high as you can. And that's the game. That's the goal is how do you raise your consciousness? How do you get your heart in alignment with your mind? Right? It's like somebody that broke up with a partner and they're feeling bad, and the friend's like, just don't think about it. Think positive thoughts. Like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm not mad, I'm not hurt. It doesn't bother me. But the heart is telling you another story. And
Mhm.
so we have to figure out what's going on here and connect it with what's going on here.
Right. So now tell me a little bit about your website. If people decide to visit it at fitmindsunited.com, what are they going to find there?
Well, really, it's just a space where I kind of have, some of my writings. I have some blogs and some different things that I've done. Um, you know, I don't work with a lot of people personally right now because
Mm.
I ended up in 2016 starting a retail business. I was in sales and doing a lot of stuff, and I was using the law of attraction big time, and it led me to become the number one person for this company. Not just the number one salesperson, but I was attracting so much abundance and so many positive customers and so many sales that people thought it was an anomaly because I was more than doubling the rest of the sales force. And so I asked if I could train people in what I was doing. They're like, "What are you doing? How are you?" And they wouldn't let me because it was too woo-woo. It was too weird. It was too pseudoscience. Or we can't have you teach our sales force the law of attraction. And I'm like, well, did you see that I sold double everybody else? Like, don't you think it's worth it? Like, they just weren't willing to do it as a corporate company, the whole nine yards. So I made a big radical leap. And in 2016, I quit my job cold turkey. And all my metaphysics teaching and all that stuff was always kind of my side hustle and my passion and just something I loved. But in the meantime, I had a day job of sales and it made me a good living. Well, 2016, I realized that I'm going to have proof in the what do they call it? Like proofs in the pudding. I need to have a proof of concept. So I started a retail business. And I said, I'm going to use, instead of setting goals, I'm not going to do goal setting. I'm going to do soul setting. I'm going to teach everybody the law of vibration. I'm going to teach everyone the freedom loop and all of this, freedom's a state of mind and all of my metaphysics. And I'm going to hire a sales team. People are like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're going to fail. You can't run a business like that in today's modern society. Well, fast forward to 2025, it's almost been 10 years now. Next year, we'll celebrate 10 years. And this sweatshirt that I'm wearing is one of our company shirts. And it says, freedom's a state of mind. And this is what we wear. And, it's just, it's so fun because this information is helping so many people. So to answer your question, my website is really just a space where people can go and connect with each other and see some of the information that I've put together over the years.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to offer an opportunity if you have any courses coming up, or, if people want to get a hold of you, would they go directly to your website and just contact you there?
Yeah, if you go to the website, there's a little chat bot that pops up and it can ask you questions and you can talk to, or you can just find my email in there or send me a message directly and I'll receive that. I guess my point is I used to do this for profit. I had clients and worked with a lot of CEOs and different people. But now my whole metaphysics business, the Fit Minds United, it's not non-for-profit because it's not a not-profit company, but I don't charge anymore. Like I just want to get this information out to as many people as possible to help people because one by one, right? That's the whole idea is just if I can teach this person, this person, this person how to take their own power back by being in charge of their light, that's going to make a big difference on this planet.
Beautiful. Yeah, I really appreciate everything you've been talking about. It kind of sounds like a preface for a workshop I'm doing this weekend on vibrational mastery because, it's so important to, understand and refine and be able to elevate our frequency so that we can align with our soul's highest blueprint for healing and manifestation and, for expansion. And so when we do these things, I always tell people, yes, we're doing this for us, and yes, we are being able to become a vibrational match, and yes, we can elevate. But the biggest thing is we affect everyone around us. And so because of the holographic field that I work in, when I'm looking at somebody, I see the grid system that makes them up, and I can see their distortions, and I can see how the second that they clear that, how everything comes online, how
Mm.
those nodes begin to light
Yes.
up in the field, how they begin to spread all those light codes that they've been holding for so long, but they weren't even at a place that they could release them.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of work you're doing is, it's got a soft spot in my heart.
Yes. Well, and that's what I love about this because I could talk to like 20 different practitioners and we're all doing the same work, but just like in sports or anything else, some people have different ways to teach it. And I love that because, if you're in a band, somebody can play the guitar really well, someone can play the piano really well, somebody plays the drums. Everybody has their gifts, on how to help and how
Right.
to teach and how to heal and how to be a leader. It's just, we all have our gifts and as we know with the Pleiadians and the Arcturians and all the different, DNA that's out there is just there's just so much coming to light right now. So this is the most profound and most exciting time to be alive. I'm just so thankful to be a part of it.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So I know we've kind of bounced around a little bit, even though we've been succinct. So we've had an opportunity to share some different ideas. But is there anything that you want to leave people with that maybe we haven't touched on?
Well, I think it's important to know that, there's a lot of talk about quantum jumping
Mhm.
and teleporting and things like that. And I want people to realize that the idea of quantum jumping is to literally teleport your consciousness from one state of being to another state of being. And you can do that instantly, right? So if I'm in a fearful state, and I am able to take myself from a fearful state to an optimistic state or a loving state or a peaceful state, that process of taking my state of being, which is a vibrational frequency, a quality of light, at the moment I do that and change my mind, I teleport my consciousness from one state of being to another. That's called quantum jumping. So I think the what I would like to leave people with is what I've already said, but it's just so important is life doesn't care about what you're doing. It cares about what you're being while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. And so go out there and be love because that's going to attract love, or be happy because that's going to attract happy. And it's not, you have to be that which you desire.
Mhm. Beautiful message. Thank you so much, Dr. Ryan. And for those of you that's watching, you can catch this replay on the Conscious Awakening Network. Go to Cosmic Conversations, and all of that information, all of our shows are free. So you can go back anytime and watch this. And so I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. So whether you're watching us live, whether you're catching the replay, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I also want to thank everyone who has been with us since the very beginning, because for the past 5 years, I've really been blessed and honored to, I guess, bring thousands of people to you that shared their wisdom, their healing, their understanding. But today marks a transition point because I'm being called into a new higher chapter. So, this next phase of my divine service or assignment on this planet. So, I'm going to take a sabbatical for the next year because I'm developing. I can't tell you what I'm developing, so it's kind of a sneak peek alert. But anyway, it's a project that mirrors the frequencies of the fifth dimension so that we can anchor them here into our holographic projection. So you will be hearing more about this. And this work is going to serve as a bridge for deeper alignment for our embodiment. So stay tuned. There's a lot unfolding. This is not going to go away. So it's with love and gratitude that I'm going to pass the baton over to Glenda Dawson. Now, she's a beautiful soul sister. You guys all know Glenda. You love Glenda. And she's going to hold this space and bring new conversations, new wisdom, her own perspectives in. And so, beginning July the 7th, Cosmic Conversations is going to move to a new time on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And so Glenda is going to continue Cosmic Conversations Monday. Now will be on Tuesday. And so although my role is kind of coming to a completion just for a year, my service is going to continue. And so I'm still going to be involved. I'm still sending speakers out. We're still doing everything that we always did. Everything will still be on the Conscious Awakening Network because our commitment remains. But we're also now going to be connecting out within a greater framework in the cosmic field. So I want to thank each of you for allowing me to be part of your journey, and my heart remains with you. And you can always check me out on SheilaSeppi.com. Of course, I'm always going to be around. And I'm also, of course, on Conscious Awakening Network. But I'll be back in a year with some new and exciting things to share. So, much love, everyone. Dr. Ryan, this was so wonderful to have you here tonight. It's a great kind of send off. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone, and sending much love. So I will see you in a year and join us again July the 7th. Much love, everyone. Good night.
Bye bye. Big hug.
Hmm.